I went to Five Below and I saw this 13 count manga drawing set and wanted to go and give it a test and see how it actually is. Five Below does actually have some pretty great and pretty decent crafting supplies, so sometimes it's good to go and test some things out. These are alcohol-based markers, there's 13 in this set. I also did end up getting some watercolor paper that was also from Five Below just to keep things consistent with at least what the quality of different items would be, and also have something that's just a little bit thicker. So I'm going and sketching out Luffy. And now let's go and test out these markers. So these markers have two sides. This one is the thinner side, and then there's also a thicker side to this as well. And when I pulled off this side, this little piece of plastic ended up actually coming off slightly, and it was pretty hard to open. But that happens. This side is a little bit thicker, and this is just about what this color is. This one is kind of like an off almost yellow, which I guess it's salmon pink, and it does not look pink at all. Then this one is more almost like a red. Not necessarily the color that I would fully and totally think as to how it is colored on the cap, but it is what it is. Let's go and try this out. I'm optimistic at least starting off. So starting off, these markers do actually go on the paper pretty well, but I did notice that these markers while I was starting to draw were pretty wet. Now they weren't really spreading on the paper too much, at least outwards, but they are very wet, which can be an issue later on, especially with this blending pen. Now this blending pen or blending marker is actually pretty decent. I don't really have too many complaints about this other than the fact that, again, this is a pretty wet marker, and what this is actually doing to some of the ink here is it's going and spreading it out. Like you can see here in the teeth area, it spread it out pretty far, but after I went over it, it got rid of a lot of the staining. Now going back over everything that I had just colored in. So everything is still pretty wet, and you can see that stuff is starting to actually go and spread at the edges, which does happen sometimes with alcohol-based markers. They will usually spread, and it can sometimes take a little bit of time for it to go and dry. It happens. But the spreading, not that it's a huge issue. Usually this medium, again, it does do this. And I'm not fully and totally disappointed. I just wish that it didn't spread as much as it did, but it is what it is. Going and putting some of the shadow down for some more of the details, it's not bad. These actually do seem like the great if you want to go and just doodle things, or you want to do quick little drawings, something like that. This is really honestly just a quick drawing that I am doing with this, so it's kind of perfect for that. Now onto the hat. There were a couple of different colors that were off to the side that were kind of just random, honestly, in my opinion. One was blue, one was purple, there was this kind of yellow one. So it just doesn't fully and totally make sense for all of the colors that were given in this set. Coloring is pretty great with this. It does stay pretty consistent, and as long as you go over the first layer, which it takes, I'd say, about like 20 seconds for a very thin layer to go and dry, then you don't really have too many areas where there's strokes that you'll see. Now blending a darker color. Using this blending pen, the ink really for a darker color on a lighter color, it's not going too far, and this blending pen here is just going and making a separated line and kind of subduing this darker line here, which I'm really not surprised. Normally with other ones, you will sometimes get a pretty decent blend with darker and lighter colors, but it is what it is. This blending marker is honestly great for giving highlights though, and it does go and subdue a lot of the color and make it lighter in certain areas. Now onto these illustration markers that are finer tipped for detail. So these really, I would honestly say, aren't necessarily the best. If the paper is wet or does get wet at all, they spread out. You can kind of see it here a little bit. These are definitely not normal ink. It's got to be something that's either water or alcohol based. So if you're going to put alcohol over it, it's going to go and spread, of course. And if you maybe put water, say you were doing watercolor or something like that, it's going to spread as well too. It's going to go everywhere. It's not Indian ink, it's nothing like that. But for what it is, these aren't necessarily bad. But they're also not necessarily something that I could see myself using all the time. For the thinner ones are actually pretty decent. I don't really have too many complaints, and because everything was relatively dry for the most part, and I'm not going back over any of this with more marker, they did pretty well. Now I'm using the pink that ended up being kind of a red just for Luffy's shirt, which that's fine, there's no extra detail I'm adding to there. Then this fine liner, I actually noticed it was dead because I wanted to do a little bit more fine detail, but that's fine. Now for the white highlighting marker. This highlighting marker does not show up at all, which I was actually extremely disappointed in because that's kind of why I did want to buy this in the first place, but it is what it is. Let's start with the positives. The positives are that the colors that are here are actually pretty vibrant. The colors, though, that are in this set really don't fully and totally make sense for what it is, and the blending marker works the best out of everything. Now on to the worst parts of this set. This pen didn't work. The white highlighter also too didn't work like I wanted it to. It really just kind of lacked what exactly it should. The markers also spread out a lot and it was very hard to go and stay in pretty much any lines. Take it or leave it, I would give this set just about a 4.5 out of 10. It's not terrible, it does work for going and doing quick drawings, but also something I will probably never get again. If you would like to see me review other art supplies, make sure to leave a comment. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.